Welcome to another episode of Controversial Thoughts with Carnivore MD. Did you know that I got reported to the Medical Board of California today by a vegan physician making a sucker punch, wimpy, cowardly move on Twitter saying that my thoughts about herd immunity and the suggestion that humans should consider herd immunity at this point constituted negligence. I'm not even going to say that physician's name because anonymity is worse than anything. He's in my rearview mirror. I'll never talk to him again. Anyway, crazy, crazy times, you guys. I'm welcoming the Medical Board of California to come and have a conversation with me about respiratory viruses, about herd immunity, and about how this could actually save lives. And I think many people are beginning to wake up to the fact that, number one, we have change to make. We can't social distance forever. We can't quarantine forever. And number two, questions remain about whether quarantine and social distancing was the right move in the first place. I'm going to explain some of my thoughts on this because a lot of people are pushing back, and I don't think we all understand where each other is coming from. So I want to share with you guys what I am thinking and hear what you're thinking about this. The point of social distancing, the point of a quarantine, is to put people in their homes and to prevent as much social interaction, which in the short term, may theoretically slow the spread of a respiratory virus. As we've learned, we can't do this long term. In fact, we really can't do this for more than a few weeks. There were peaceful riots in North Carolina today from people wanting to get back to work. We know that every single day that we continue to have the economy shut down, lives are being lost in the long term due to the economic implications. This is not money versus lives. This is lives versus lives. There's Bloomberg data to suggest that for every 1% increase in unemployment, there are 40,000 lives lost over the next 6 years. With greater than 10% unemployment right now, we are looking at 400,000 to 600,000 lives lost over the next 6 years related to the unemployment numbers connected with the economic shutdown with coronavirus. This is not money versus lives. This is lives versus lives. It's not me saying that I don't care about your parents or my parents, or I want people to die, or I think we should do herd immunity, and that's going to cause a lot of deaths, and that's what I want. This is me saying think outside the box and think for yourself, and don't accept what you've been told as the right thing. Questions with social distancing. Theoretically, it will slow the spread of the virus in the short term. Well, what happens when you open the doors? What happens when the doors are opened? Do people really believe that by social distancing for the last 3 to 4 weeks, we've eradicated the virus, or the virus is not going to be there when we open the doors? If they are believing this, then I think that they're looking at models that I have not seen, because all of the models that I have seen suggest that as soon as we stop social distancing, the virus will begin to spread again, as it has been. The point of social distancing, in my opinion, was to prevent hospitals from being overwhelmed. Hospitals in New York were at the verge of being overwhelmed. Yes, good strategy, but realize it doesn't last forever, doesn't solve the problem, and many hospitals are no longer overwhelmed. Again, I say this on every single Controversial Thoughts podcast that I do, every single Controversial Thoughts video that I do. The area under the curve is the same, theoretically, whether you do social distancing or you don't, meaning that the same number of people will probably contract the virus. On Twitter, on Instagram, I get pushback from people saying, herd immunity is crazy. You're a Looney Tune, Saladino. You're insane. People will die if you do social distancing. Or excuse me, people will die if you do herd immunity. People will die if you take people out of quarantine. Well, guess what? If the area under the curve is the same, whether the curve goes like this or like this, the same number of people will be exposed to the virus either way. That means the same number of people will have complications. The same number of people will have severe illness, and the same number of people will be asymptomatic or have mild illness. In fact, I would argue that with quarantine and social distancing, the results may be worse for 2 reasons. When we open the social distancing and quarantine, how many people will be less healthy? Junk food has been soaring in cost, soaring in purchases. People are less healthy now, less active, more frustrated, more angry. Just look at what's happening on social media. People are so angry and ready to take me down. Right? They're not exercising. They're not getting in the sun because nature is closed for some crazy reason. They're eating worse food generally. and they're not around people they care about. People are not happy right now. Is that a good immune system? No. There's a real potential that when we open the doors, many people will be more susceptible to coronavirus and will have a worse course of this illness. Has insulin resistance increased over the last 4 weeks in our country? Probably. How much more vegetable oil, how many more processed carbohydrates have been increased in that amount of time? It's very clear that obesity and insulin resistance are major risk factors for this disease, for severe progression of COVID. And more people are beginning to wake up to this fact. I'm glad about that. But putting humans in cages is a bad idea in general. We can do it for a short amount of time. We need to do it very carefully. When we open the doors, are we going to open the doors to everyone? Or should we practice a reasonable herd immunity strategy in which the young and the healthy, the truly metabolically healthy, we have to define that, are the people who are exposed first? Because guess what? Most models predict the majority of us will be exposed. And with previous respiratory viruses, the exposure of the mass majority of people is what creates herd immunity. Either that or a vaccine. Vaccines are 12 to 18 months away, 24 to 36 months away. We have no idea about the efficacy. We have no idea if they're going to work. We have no idea if the virus is going to mutate. Listen to the last video I did. If the spike protein mutates, if something else mutates, we don't even know if the vaccine is going to work. Drugs won't save us. What do we have? What do we have as humans? We continue to cower in our homes indefinitely, or we face a respiratory virus. That is probably going to have a less than 0.5% fatality rate when all the numbers are in. 0.5% of the people who get exposed to it will die. This is incredibly tragic, especially if it's my parents, your parents, or someone you or I know. But we have to think more broadly. We can't be scared of these things. This is not going to be the last infection. Social distancing might stem the tide in order to prevent hospitals from being overwhelmed, but that's about all it does. It hasn't been shown to prevent that less people, it hasn't been shown to lead to less people getting infected in the long term. And over the amount of time, if the same number of people get infected, what have we really accomplished? Yes, perhaps we didn't overwhelm some hospitals. Great. But at what cost? At what cost? It's a tricky thing. There's no good way out. No one I've talked to knows what to do next. So we all have to start thinking about it. And is it really hateful, treasonous, or negligent, warranting someone reporting me to the Medical Board of California to suggest that a herd immunity strategy with the most healthy and most immunologically robust people might be the best way to get out of quarantine? That's ridiculous. I'm ashamed of this vegan doctor who is a total coward on Twitter. Complete coward. I'm ashamed that people are becoming the thought police and discouraging free and independent thought from anyone. Just because I'm a physician and you disagree with my views, you're going to throw me under the bus? Cowardly. Completely cowardly. Consistent with what they're thinking about everything else, I suppose. So, how do we move forward? What is the next step? How do we do this? We have to move forward. We cannot be a deer in the headlights. We cannot be paralyzed. The only way forward, as I can see it, is intelligent reopening of the economy, intelligent reopening of our lives, getting back to living instead of fearing. And that starts with the young and most healthy getting out there and getting exposed to the virus. That's herd immunity. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. And if we continue to shelter those who are most susceptible, we may be able to protect them. There's a very good chance that a herd immunity strategy that is intelligently designed could be more protective for the people in our lives who are most vulnerable. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you and me getting exposed to this virus to protect the people who are less robust, who are less strong. Report me to the medical board for that. Anyone watching this, please. I'm welcoming that. I did a tweet on Twitter. I'm welcoming these conversations with the Medical Board of California. Let them come and try and take my license for thinking independently. This is absurd. Think for yourself. Question authority. Question quarantines. Question whether they even work. Are they just delaying the inevitable? Which is probably the case. And in that case, could it be even worse? Who knows? We're all trying to figure this out. We all deserve a voice. Think independently. Think for yourself. Stay radical. We'll see what happens, you guys. Crazy times. I am still happy and healthy and crushing it and not afraid of anything that is coming in the future. I'm welcoming all of it. Bring the ruckus.